This is Duke University.
It's really good to be here, everyone. As Hal mentioned, my name is Kendall Perez, and I'm with our university relations team at Interstride. So I'm here just to provide a platform tutorial, give an overview as to how you can leverage this resource for your own personal job, career, and immigration journey. Um, so before I dive straight into the platform itself, I do want to provide a little bit of context in terms of what Interstride is and how it supports this community. So Interstride is a platform that was developed by international students for international students. So the founders of Interstride were actually international students themselves. When it came time for them to start their job search process, they noticed that they, along with a lot of their peers, had some more hurdles to navigate compared to their domestic counterpeers. So going through that process, understanding that process from an international student, led to the inspiration of what is now Interstride. So Interstride is an interactive portal that supports international students in those different realms. So I will be sharing my screen throughout most of this presentation, but I do want this to be a valuable use of your time. So if folks here have any questions, feel free if you want to unmute yourself, if you want to leave it to the end, if you want to throw in a question in the chat, please feel free to utilize any of those methods. Again, I want this to be a valuable use of your time. But with that being said, and with that context established, I want to go ahead and just dive straight into the platform itself. So let me go ahead and pull up my screen. Okay, whoops. Awesome. Okay. So this is the landing page for Duke. It's just interstride.com/Duke. I'll go ahead and drop this link in the chat so folks here can easily access this. But when you go ahead and go to log into the platform, everyone here should already have access to Interstride. You'll sign in with your university credentials, and then you'll complete your login with your single sign-on credentials. So the first time that you log in, if this is your first time visiting this tool, just make sure that you are using your Duke email address. After you log in for the first time, you can do things like you can add a secondary email, you can link your LinkedIn or your Gmail account if you want those alternative login methods, which I definitely recommend. We do see a lot of alumni come back and reuse this tool. We know that sometimes you might be on OPT or STEM OPT, so sometimes formal sponsorship might not be something that you have to worry about until a few years after graduation. So we do see alums come back and reuse this. So I recommend having that alternative login method just in case. So if you want to revisit this tool after graduation, you still have access. If you are interested in setting up those alternative login methods, you can do so on your profile settings on the upper right-hand side right here. This is where you would add a secondary email. Or I mentioned if you wanted to link your LinkedIn, you'll see I have my LinkedIn linked. I didn't link my Gmail account, but if you wanted to do either of those, you would do it here on the home dashboard. But this is the home dashboard for the platform. In terms of the platform, it's really divided within these four main sections of jobs, network, learn, and tools. I'm going to dive into each and one of those as we move through this presentation. Full disclosure, I am going to spend the bulk amount of our time together on the jobs dashboard, since that's where we are seeing students spend the vast majority of their time on this resource is on the job side of things. So that's where we'll be spending most of our time together. If you do have questions, or maybe if you want to throw your major into the chat and we can kind of look into some more specific examples for something that maybe a field you're looking to break into, feel free to utilize that. But just at a quick glance, Interstride as an organization, as well as also Duke, will be sharing some resources or content with you on the home dashboard. So you can check out the content that we're sharing. You'll see that content is going to range in topics like immigration support or career readiness, trends in the economy, maybe upcoming webinars, things of that nature. So you can go ahead and check out the content that is being posted here and see if any of them are relevant to you and what you are maybe looking into. Now, now diving straight into the platform itself. So I mentioned I'm going to start off on the job side of things. So the jobs dashboard is further divided within these different subsections. The first one I'm going to speak about is the search jobs. The search jobs side of things is more like your general search. This is a keyword-based search engine where you can search for different opportunities based on things like companies or job titles. We do have some filters automatically in place within the system, so you can go ahead and check out some of those. So you'll see one of the go-to right here is this top 1,000 H-1B filter. These top 1,000 companies represent the vast majority of companies that are hiring international students. These top 1,000 companies are responsible for hiring most international students. So if we're looking at, maybe a business example, I saw someone just put in the chat that they are looking at management. I know that that's something that can go into multiple different fashions, but maybe we're looking specifically within something more of like a business side of things. So immediately we're going to see some pretty familiar names. I'm seeing McKinsey & Company. I'm seeing Amazon. Let's see here. I'm seeing Capital One. I see Capgemini, Deloitte. Now, a couple things that I wanted to go ahead and note. One, as you look at different opportunities, if you were to hover over the company names, you can see how often those companies sent out petitions to sponsor international talent last year. So Deloitte, they did about 5,600 petitions. That means there was about 5,600 individuals from an international background that they said, hey, we want you on the team, and we are not only willing to sponsor, but we are going to petition to sponsor you. Capgemini, they're also up there. They did about 3,500. Let's see here. Some of these other ones, I saw this Memorial Sloan Cancer Center position. They did about 300. I saw McKinsey & Company, they did about 600. Amazon, they were the #1 sponsor. They did about 19,000. So you can see at a quick glance, is this company, are they sponsoring 50, 60 times, or are they sponsoring thousands of times? And we can find a further in-depth analysis of those numbers on the Visa Insights tab. So we'll get to that in just a moment. But just at a quick glance, you can go ahead and see what that looks like. Now, you might have noticed a few of the positions. So like this one at Amazon, this one at Memorial Sloan Cancer Center, both have a tag next to it that says sponsored last year. So what those tags indicate is that those specific positions within the company, they ended up onboarding someone from an international background for those jobs. So those ones are going to have the highest likelihood of sponsorship again, just because the company has already onboarded someone from an international background for those positions. And that also is a filter in itself. So maybe if I am looking into, saw someone mention that maybe they were looking to break into tech. I'm trying to think of maybe we're looking at like a software engineer role. And we want to look at jobs that were specifically sponsored. So now the search results are going to go ahead and showcase exactly that. So I'm seeing a bunch of different positions. I saw one at Google, actually a few at Google, Uber, Microsoft, but they're going to range just depending on what is available at that moment. Now, you can get pretty specific with your search experience. For example, if maybe I want to search for jobs at Amazon, we know that they were the #1 sponsor, but maybe I only want to search for jobs at Amazon that they sponsored for. Now that search results are going to go ahead and showcase exactly that. Maybe if I want to make this even more specific, then maybe I'm looking within a specific region. if I'm looking at New York. And then I can go ahead and search for jobs at Amazon that they sponsored for that are based out of New York. And I'm seeing a few variety of different opportunities here. A business analyst role. I'm seeing more of like a like engineer type of position, a data scientist position. So there's going to be different options. Obviously, you'll notice the amount of jobs here on this search result are a lot less than what we were looking at maybe 2 or 3 examples ago, but that's just because this is very specific. We're looking at jobs at one company in one location that were specifically sponsored. So just depending on what it is that you're searching for, if you're casting a wide net, you're going to see more opportunities. If you're looking at something very specific, you're going to see more specified opportunities. But when you find that sweet spot of what you're searching for, I recommend giving that search a save. You just have to give it a title and indicate if you want notifications emailed out to you of new postings. And then you can go ahead and when you log into the platform, you'll see saved searches over here. So you can just go straight to your saved searches and kind of have the platform do some of the heavy lifting for you. And again, you can have unlimited save searches. So when you find that sweet spot of what you're looking for, then I recommend that you can go ahead and indicate if you're looking in certain regions, or maybe if you're double majoring, you can save those searches in different ones. I did see a question from Ying Chu about letting you know if companies only sponsor like senior level positions or not. Yes, we will be able to find out that information. That is going to be on the US Visa Insights tab. So we'll get to that in just a couple moments. Now, some additional filters that y'all can explore is we do have, I mentioned the top 1,000 H-1B, that's kind of the go-to. We also have a top 500 H-1B. These 500 companies are responsible for hiring about 60% of international students. And those are some of your bigger players, you know, your Amazons, your PayPals, some of those larger organizations. We also do have a filter called cap exempt. Cap exempt is a unique option for international students. Sometimes international students, if maybe they're thinking about going to grad school, but maybe they want to take a little bit of time between, or maybe they want to get their PhD program. Cap exempt, well, traditionally, the US government caps the amount of H-1B visas at 85,000 every year. 20,000 of those are specifically reserved for graduate students and higher. But for jobs that are classified as cap exempt, the US government doesn't give a limit in the amount of visas that they hand out for cap exempt, because the nature of the work is either higher education based or nonprofit based. So if we're looking at like a research level position and we're using the cap exempt filter, now instead of seeing companies like Microsoft or McKinsey and Company or, you know, Amazon, I'm seeing different research institutes. I'm seeing medical centers, the Cleveland Clinic, or this is a university. So the search results are going to change just depending on what filter you have on the moment. If you are interested in learning a little bit more about cap exempt, let me go ahead and pull up an article that, that explains it a little bit more. Okay, so if you're interested in learning a little bit more about that process, you can go ahead and check this out. You can always touch base too with someone from Duke that can also help run you through that process or provide some clarity. The last filter that we do have on the platform, this is a relatively new filter. I think it's only like 3 weeks old. And this is international organizations. So certain international organizations have more flexibility when it comes time to sponsoring, you know, organizations like the United Nations. So if you want to search for international organizations, or if you want to see what those options look like, you can check that out here too. Now, there are some additional filters that you can play around with, things like searching by experience level, or mentioned location or degree type that you can indicate there. And you can also search internationally on the platform as well. So if you're a student and maybe you want to search for opportunities abroad, maybe you're from Germany, or you're from India, or you're from China, and you want to search for opportunities in your home country, You can go ahead and search accordingly. If I may be looking at like a data analyst type of role, and in this example, I'm searching within India. Here are the different options that are available. In my experience, if the company does have a large global presence, I see some pretty familiar names, seeing like S&P Global, Genpact, Comcast, and then sometimes some unfamiliar names, or maybe they're familiar to you if you're more well-versed within the companies in that country. Those initial filters that I mentioned, like the sponsored last year tag or the top H-1B employers, those filters are going to go away because those are US specific filters. However, you can still search by things like degree type or location if you are searching internationally as well. Anytime you change the country code outside of the US, on the right-hand side, you'll see the country guide pop up for that, as well as also the ability to network with individuals from that country. So these will be fellow Duke students that you can go ahead and try to connect with. We do recommend targeting employers that do have global mobility. There are certain things that all of us can do here just to help make sure that you are prepared and ready for your process or to increase your odds of getting a job within a company. However, there are also certain elements that are out of all of our control. The main one being the visa lottery system. That's not anything that you, myself, Hal, that's not anything that any of us can specifically influence. So companies with a lot of global mobility, if you get offered a position there and maybe the lottery process doesn't work out in your favor, they may say that you can work in one of your offices abroad. That's actually exactly what happened with one of the co-founders of Interstride. He got a job in the US. They were willing to sponsor him. He went through the sponsorship process or the lottery process, and it didn't work out in his favor. However, they were like, you can work in the UK. So he worked in the UK for a couple of years and then came back to the US under a different visa. So that is a pretty common route. But I use, searching internationally or globally as a way to say that a lot of US employers also do have offices abroad. Okay, so that is a little bit about more of the search jobs. Again, it's your ability to search domestically as well as also internationally, and you can leverage those filters that were designed for international students specifically. The next tab that I want to go ahead and review is the US Visa Insights. So the US Visa Insights is more of your research side of things. So this is where you can go and look up different companies or search by different industries, and you can see how those different companies or industries sponsor. So for example, Amazon. We talked about how Amazon was the #1 sponsor of international folks last year. They did about 19,000 petitions to sponsor international talent. If we click on Amazon's profile, we can see the breakdown of that 19,000 number. So about a third of all the jobs that they sponsored for were for software engineer type of positions. So if I click on it, I can also see what experience level are they looking for when they sponsor for this role. But if I'm a student and I'm studying software engineering or computer science, and I see this information, I have no reservations as to whether or not Amazon is willing to sponsor me if they want me on their team. They were willing to sponsor over 6,000 individuals last year alone for this type of position. Now, what I really do like about this is that it does show the type of qualifications they're looking for when they sponsor for these roles. You will hear that sometimes, maybe from your own personal experiences, you hear from some companies that they sponsor, but they only sponsor like executive directors or VP type of roles. And that is true for certain companies. For example, Amazon. Amazon is one of the top 10 sponsors. They sponsored a little over 4,000 individuals. However, when we look at the different types of jobs that Amazon sponsors for, they very rarely are taking on entry-level positions. They're looking for folks who are kind of masters of their craft or who have some ample experience that can lead within those different positions. So even just looking at these charts, I can see that they're more skewed towards the fully competent or experienced side of things. Which is, if you're coming, maybe you had a lot of experience and you're coming back to get your master's and now you're going back into the field, absolutely you're going to qualify for something like this. But if you're coming in straight and you don't really have much experience quite yet, this is something that you can note. So it could be a company that maybe could be a goal for you in the future. Or if you see a company that is only sponsoring, fully competent roles or VP roles, that could be noteworthy for you ahead of time, so you're not wasting your time. But I want to show a few different ways as to how you can leverage this platform. So I talked about how you can browse by different industries. There's a bunch of different industries here. I find them some are very interesting to me. You might not think of, okay, like food and beverage, but there's a whole industry for specifically food and beverage manufacturing. Some are like more business oriented or developmental. Some might be more kind of niche, like this one is video games. So if there's any fellow gamers on the call and you maybe want to blend your career with your personal passion, here are the top video game companies that sponsor. Now, when you're searching on the platform, the company that will be listed first will be the top sponsor, and then so on and so on. You can always export this list if you want to play around with the numbers. But what I like about, like, if we're checking out a company like Electronic Arts, I like Electronic Arts because at a first glance, we might see or might assume they're only sponsoring like STEM level positions. I'm seeing like software engineer, AI engineer, data scientists. So it's very like STEM and data focused. However, as we continue to scroll, we can see positions that they're sponsoring for like animation type of roles. I'm seeing user experience designer, so maybe for our graphic designers out there. I'm also seeing like product management or production, marketing. So even at a first glance, might think, oh, okay, they're only sponsoring STEM positions. But if you just continue to scroll a little bit, you can see that actually this company, they sponsor quite a lot for a lot of different positions. This might be where most of the positions are. That might just have the highest number of jobs within some of these positions, but that doesn't mean they only sponsor for these positions. Again, same thing with all of these different fields. We were doing some earlier and we were looking at things like healthcare. If you are maybe someone who's interested in working within like healthcare or hospital organizations, here are companies within that field. So if we're looking at one of these, like the Mayo Clinic, the way that the Mayo Clinic sponsors looks a lot different than the way that, Amazon was sponsoring or the way that Electronic Arts was sponsoring. Here, they're focused a lot more on, research associates, residents, medical technologists, stuff more within the medical field. Now, so far, we've only been on the petitions tab. Again, that's just to see more as to how they sponsor. But when doing some of your research, if you find a company and you're like, I like this company, I like how they sponsor, are there any openings here? You can scroll on over to the open positions tab and you can see what openings are available within the company. Already, I'm seeing a couple different positions that were specifically sponsored, but it looks like a variety of different roles. Maybe a nurse position. So if I'm specifically looking to go into nursing, I can search nurse positions. And these are all different nurse level roles within the Mayo Clinic. So you can use the US Visa Insights tab for your search experience. The difference between this and the search jobs is that on the search jobs, if I'm typing in nurse, I'm probably going to see a bunch of different companies. I'm seeing West Virginia hospitals, Children's Hospital LA, Children's Hospital Philadelphia, Yeah, I'm seeing a variety of different opportunities. Whereas on the Visa Insights, when I'm searching for jobs, I'm only searching within the company that I'm currently researching. So that's just the difference between the two. Speaking of companies, you can look up companies themselves. So if maybe you're interested in working at a specific company, I had a student ask about Tesla. So we searched Tesla and we're like, let's see how they sponsor. And we can see that Tesla, they sponsored quite a bit last year. They sponsored about 1,300 individuals. Now, when we go on to Tesla's page, we can see that, again, the type of jobs that they sponsored for, but here they tend to be looking for a specific type of individual. I'm seeing mainly like software development positions or mechanical design or manufacturing engineer positions, which does make sense given who Tesla is and what they do, or what they produce. But again, I can get a nice pulse on the company to see if that's a company that I want to invest my time and energy into applying for jobs within that organization. I am seeing some outside as we just continue to scroll. I saw a like global supply chain manager. So that could be something maybe more within management or business. Or I know someone said that maybe they were looking to also break into tech. That could be like a good blend of the two. Yeah, materials planner. Okay. But again, each company, if they sponsor just one time, their information as to how will be here. I'm curious if we even want to look up like uh, Duke. So we can look up Duke University and see how they sponsored. Okay, cool. Duke sponsored a little over 200 times last year. Let's see how. Okay, so I'm seeing postdoctoral students, assistant professors, research scientists, which I would imagine probably is in line. Um, so if anyone here is maybe interested in working at your alma mater, we can see that Duke has traditionally sponsored quite a lot of international folks themselves. Awesome. Okay, so that is the Visa Insights tab. Again, these two tabs tend to be the most leveraged in my experience. You can leverage both of them for your job search process. The differences between the two, the search jobs is a little bit more broad, and you can also search globally on the search jobs tab. The Visa Insights is a little bit more of your research side, and then if you're searching for opportunities, it's more specified within companies that you're researching. But there's still some additional tabs on the platform. So the next one that we have is the country insights. Now, if you're in a position where maybe you're curious about working abroad, or maybe you're thinking about Canada, a lot of times Canada is a big backup plan for international students. Or maybe you get an offer from an organization and they mention that you can work internationally in one of their offices abroad, and you have to select which one. This could be a good place to do some brainstorming to get a little bit more intel as to what it would mean to live, work, immigrate abroad to that country. So if you are thinking like Canada, you can go to the Canadian Insights page, and here you can find out information on things like, what's the cost of living going to look like here? What kind of visas am I going to need? What does healthcare look like? We have different city guides for some of the more metropolitan regions. So if you're thinking specifically Vancouver, then you can go ahead and check out more of the day-to-day life within this city guide. And again, every country is going to have their information here. So if you are maybe just kind of curious about moving abroad, you can go ahead and check out some of these details here. Now, the last tab that we have, and Hal, I can't remember if this is live or not. This is a very new feature so for our students. So if you don't see this tab yet, don't worry. It is very fresh. But this is a opportunity for universities to upload CPT and OPT data to the platform. So if that is something that if you don't see, again, it's very new, so no worries there. But if that is something that gets uploaded, then that will be communicated, and then you can check out to do also find out some more intel from your peers as to where they completed things like CPT or OPT, so you can target your approach. Okay, awesome. Okay, now running through some of the additional elements to the portal. So I mentioned earlier that if you wanted to be able to network with one another, you will have that option to be able to do so. So on the network on the portal, there's two halves to it. There is the community side and the discover side. Now, the community side is kind of like your more Reddit style public forum postings. Now, we have over 150,000 international students on Interstride, so it's a pretty large community. So if you want to be able to leverage the community of international students who are studying in the US, then I would recommend checking out the community posts or posting this yourself. You can see students who may be introducing themselves. They're like, hello, my name is so-and-so. I'm from, this school. This is what I'm studying. Maybe here's my LinkedIn. Does anyone want to connect? So if you were to post that as a Duke student, then students from NYU or UT Austin or San Diego State, they will all be able to engage with you on these public style postings. Now, the other half to the network is the discover side. The discover side is just for like the Duke community. It's just for Duke students, faculty, staff, and alumni. So here, this is where you can go and connect with your peers, with fellow Duke students or alums. You can message each other, you can search for each other. So maybe if you're a student from China and you want to start a Chinese business student association at Duke, you can search for Chinese students who are also business students, and then you can go ahead and find folks who hit that criteria. And then you can message them and be like, hey, I'm looking to start a Chinese business student association. Would you be interested in being a part of that organization? Or maybe you want to search, maybe you're Brazilian and you want to search for Brazilian alumni. And you want to say like, hey, what was your experience like? What was your job search experience like? Do you have any tips for me? Do you have any recommendations or advice? If folks do have their LinkedIn integrated, if you click on their profile, you'll see their LinkedIn page, so then you can try to connect with them there. Now, if you're someone who maybe you very much want to be a part of the network, awesome. But if not, maybe you're like, I don't want to be searchable, I don't want to be clickable. That's totally understandable, and that's completely up to you. That'll actually be one of the welcoming questions when you create your account that says, do you want your profile open to the network? But if you want to change that information later on, that's also going to be part of your account settings on the upper right-hand side. You'll see right here, profile visible to network. So if I were to just toggle this off, then my profile would no longer be visible. Awesome. So that's the network. The next tab that I want to focus on, and this is probably my second favorite tab after the jobs one, and that is our webinars, or excuse me, Learn, which is our webinars are a part of this. So the Learn tab really kind of like is where a lot of our resources are hosted. So in terms of webinars, we are throwing on anywhere between 5 to 10 webinars on a monthly basis. Hal actually gave one of the webinars like 2 weeks ago now, I think.
Don't ask me, but something like that.
Excuse me. But yes, we're delivering quite a lot of content. Those topics are going to range in topics like things like, so we have one right here, which is building backup plans after graduation. So that was the one that Hal led. We talked about embracing positivity and career success as an international student. This one was networking 101. There's a few that were probably, yep, here are some immigration related ones, like this one's on the green card process, O1 visa, CPT, OPT. So I encourage you to check these out from time to time, see if any of them are relevant to you and what you may be looking for. Again, if you're not able to attend a live webinar, you can go to the on-demand and visit those recordings. We also do offer different courses on the platform. So those courses are going to range in topics like, again, immigration support or career readiness. So we have one on like the job search strategy, or this one is on the H-1B visa process. So if you do have questions along any of these categories, then I recommend checking out these courses so you can learn more about the granular details that are specific to these topics. We also do offer different resources here. There's a bunch of different buckets that range in, just like all the resources, they're going to be either career or immigration focus. But if we look at something like CPT, OPT, and STEM OPT, here you can find different guides. You can find different blog article posts. We have different videos that you can check out. So just some good content for you to explore. I really like this guide. This was an this is our employer's guide to hiring international students. So I've seen some students, they take this and share it with employers as a way to like, have a form of self-advocacy or just share the content with them. And then student services, that's where we have things like scholarships for international students, are just some things to check out. The last section that we have on the platform is the tools. So the tools includes things like our career game plan. So our career game plan was designed by NACE, and NACE is the National Association of Colleges and Employers. So they're a very large organization that work with employers as well as also just career readiness. And they did a national survey for recruiters. And they asked them, what traits are you looking for in new hires? And they identified these as the 8 most common characteristics. Now, what I really like about this is this lets you know where your natural strengths lie, and then also maybe some areas of improvement, and then gives you some tools to be able to improve upon those areas. That's actually a very common interview question, is what are your top 3 strengths and what do you think are your areas of improvement? So this can even help guide you in that direction. One form of feedback that we have heard from employers is sometimes feeling like sometimes international students are not portraying themselves to the best of their ability during interviews. And that might just be sometimes we're nervous interviewers. And if English is our second language, then it might just be, if we're nervous, might be a little bit more difficult in that sense. And thankfully, though, a lot of interviews now are conducted over the phone or on Zoom. So we get a little bit more opportunity to study up prior to those interviews. So I recommend taking this. And then if you're about to enter into interview season, just revisit this. So you have that professional vocabulary to articulately describe yourself within that interview setting in traits that people are looking for. Another section that we have is called the OPT calculator. So this OPT calculator gives international students a chance to enter in like the details of their program, and then it'll let them know when you need to fill out certain forms or requirements for certain deadlines. Again, if you do have questions about your specific situation, please check in with your team at Duke, as everyone here can work with you to answer some of your more specific questions. We do have different checklists as well, and these checklists include some links to be able to dive deeper into those topics. But these range from things like salary negotiation to the long distance job search process. You can customize this as well if you want to customize that content. And then lastly, we have our Meet, where you can go ahead and add events into your calendar. But yeah, so that is the platform in a nutshell. Just a couple housekeeping items. So one, we do have a help center here. So if you want to reach out to someone from our team, you can reach out to them here. You can also find some details in some of our commonly asked questions. Any major updates that we are sharing as an organization, we'll be sharing here on this like revolving carousel. So for example, we recently launched a Google Chrome extension, and this essentially, we know that a lot of students want to search for jobs on multiple platforms like LinkedIn. So if you want to download this extension, then if you're searching for jobs outside of Interstride, you can still get access to Interstride's data on those other platforms through this extension. But if I could summarize, the main points I would say in terms of how this can help support you in your job search journey. One, I would say, is the ability to search for opportunities both domestically and abroad on the same platform, as well as also being able to leverage those filters that were designed specifically for international students, like the sponsored last year tag or the top H-1B employers. The second one I would say is definitely the Visa Insights tab. If I'm going to any of these companies, their own career website, they're not sharing how often they sponsor or what types of jobs they sponsor for. That information can be difficult to find sometimes. So we're putting it into a more digestible format for you to be able to do some of your research as you embark upon that journey. And then the last one I would say is just the amount of resources on the platform. The webinars, the courses, the ability to network with each other. There's quite a lot of content for you to explore when you have the time.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that demo, Kendall. A lot of really useful tools there. I think the job section and Visa Insights speak for themselves, but just want to emphasize how great that Learn section is as well. There's a number of webinars that both happen live and you can get the recordings of that provide a lot of really helpful information that's very difficult to get elsewhere for no cost to you. So definitely encourage you to check out those courses and webinars in addition to the more immediate, job related pieces.